As the conflict between Iran and Israel shifts from tensions to direct war, the stakes have never been higher. The biggest question now is, will Iran receive support from its powerful allies like China? Israel's strong backing from the US and other Western allies is well known, but Iran's alliances are less straightforward. Despite the deep economic and strategic ties between Iran and China, will Beijing take sides in this escalating conflict? In this video, we'll explore the depth of Iran and China's relationship and ask what it could mean for this intense new phase of war. Their connection, forged along the Silk Road centuries ago, has grown into a critical partnership in modern times. China depends on Iran's oil and energy resources, especially through the Belt and Road Initiative, which gives it influence across Asia and the Middle East. For Iran, facing harsh Western sanctions, China has been a crucial economic lifeline, buying oil and helping it circumvent US pressure. However, the situation is not black and white. China has deep-rooted investments in Saudi Arabia, Israel, and other regional players that oppose Iran, and it may not want to risk these partnerships. Historically, China has preferred a non-interference stance in the Middle East, seeking to build its influence without stepping into conflicts directly. Yet the stakes for China are high. A prolonged war could disrupt global oil supplies and impact China's own energy security and economy. So what role will China play now that Iran and Israel are officially at war? Will it actively back Iran or try to avoid becoming entangled in this chaotic conflict? Join us as we dive into the complexities of this high-stakes alliance and what it could mean for the future of the Middle East and global power dynamics. The relationship between Iran and China has evolved over centuries, developing from ancient trade exchanges into a comprehensive, modern strategic partnership. The roots of this connection date back to the ancient Silk Road, a sprawling trade network that linked East and West. By the 7th century, the Silk Road had become a conduit for goods and ideas between Persia and China, encouraging a blend of cultural and economic ties that would shape each society's perception of the other. This foundation in trade allowed for a rich exchange of knowledge as well as cultural elements, with Persian poetry frequently referencing China and Chinese chronicles recording the influence of Persia. This mutual respect laid a stable groundwork for future relations, allowing both societies to see each other as partners rather than adversaries. Fast forward to the 20th century, and this long-standing relationship took a decisive turn amid modern geopolitical shifts. By the 1980s, both Iran and China found themselves increasingly isolated from the West for different reasons. Iran due to its post-revolutionary stance and conflicts with neighboring states, and China amid its own path to modernization and political realignment. A significant catalyst in deepening their partnership was the Iran-Iraq War from 1980 to 1988. This protracted conflict isolated Iran from many potential allies and resources, forcing the country to look for alternative sources of support. China, on the other hand, was looking to extend its international influence and saw an opportunity to support Iran while expanding its arms trade. Chinese arms and military equipment became essential for Iran during this time, marking the beginning of a strategic relationship based on pragmatic need. This partnership continued to grow, evolving with the shifting tides of global geopolitics, especially as China began to recognize Iran's critical role in the Middle East and its potential to serve as a reliable partner in a volatile region. The foundation of this partnership, laid in the 1980s, matured significantly by the time Chinese President Xi Jinping visited Iran in 2016. This visit marked a historic moment as it led to the signing of a comprehensive 25-year cooperation agreement that was finally formalized in 2021. This agreement aims to foster collaboration across economic, political, and military sectors. It represents a significant commitment on both sides, underscoring Iran's strategic value to China, particularly as China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, takes shape across Asia, the Middle East, and beyond. For China, Iran represents not only a critical source of energy, but also a key geographic link within the BRI's larger goal of connecting China to Europe and Africa through a series of infrastructure projects. For Iran, the partnership offers an economic lifeline, helping it circumvent Western sanctions and isolation. The deal promises billions of dollars in Chinese investment into Iran, which Iran sees as essential for sustaining its economy and maintaining its infrastructure under the weight of sanctions. The political alignment between Iran and China has a broader context. China, aware of the West's influence in global affairs, is actively working to forge alliances that challenge Western dominance. Iran's inclusion as a full member in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, a Eurasian alliance spearheaded by China and Russia, demonstrates the shared goals and mutual benefits of their partnership. The SCO is designed to focus on regional security and economic development, and Iran's membership underscores China's recognition of Iran as a key partner in fostering regional stability and development. Moreover, Iran joined the BRICS group of emerging economies in early 2023, further strengthening its ties with China and providing it with a platform to pursue economic collaboration outside the Western sphere. These moves indicate that Iran and China see each other not just as economic partners, but as strategic allies in creating a multipolar world where global power is not solely dictated by the West. A major aspect of the Iran-China partnership is centered around energy security. China, as the world's largest importer of foreign oil, relies heavily on steady, affordable access to global energy supplies. Iran, with its vast oil reserves, is an attractive partner in this regard, especially since both nations have faced various forms of economic sanctions imposed by the United States. Iran offers its oil to China at discounted rates, allowing Chinese companies, particularly smaller independent refiners or teapots, to purchase oil at lower prices than might otherwise be possible. These smaller Chinese refiners, due to their limited connections to the US financial system, are better positioned to avoid the risks associated with US sanctions. In 2023 alone, China imported an average of 1.1 million barrels of oil per day from Iran, accounting for roughly 10% of its overall crude imports. This volume marked a 70% increase from the previous year, with some months seeing imports spike to 1.5 million barrels per day, a record high in their decade-long oil trade history. For Iran, China's demand for oil is vital, as it represents 90% of Iran's total oil exports, making China its largest and most important buyer. This arrangement is critical for Iran's economy as it faces significant challenges under the weight of international sanctions. China's high volume of Iranian oil imports has been sustained through a series of creative methods designed to bypass sanctions, including ship-to-ship transfers and rebranding Iranian oil as coming from other countries, like Malaysia. These techniques reveal the lengths to which both nations are willing to go to preserve their economic relationship in the face of external pressures. China's concerns about stability in the Middle East also play a role in its approach to Iran. As tensions rise, any broad conflict in the region threatens to disrupt oil supplies, raising prices, and potentially straining China's supply chain. While Iran's low-cost oil helps insulate China somewhat from these risks, an attack on Iran's oil infrastructure, for instance by Israel, could prompt China to rely more on other suppliers at a higher cost. Moreover, Any conflict involving Iranian allies, such as the Houthis in Yemen, could disrupt key maritime routes like the Strait of Hormuz and the Red Sea, adding further volatility to China's oil imports. While China has a national oil reserve that could sustain it for 3 to 4 months in the event of lost imports, a major Middle Eastern conflict could still jeopardize its long-term economic stability. China's energy structure differs significantly from that of the United States, where oil comprises a larger share of total energy consumption. Nevertheless, China has poured substantial investments into Middle Eastern energy infrastructure, especially in countries like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. Interestingly, despite its support for Iran, China has also pursued investments in Israel, reflecting a carefully balanced approach. This approach highlights China's recognition of a shifting power dynamic in the Middle East, where it perceives declining U.S. influence as an opportunity to strengthen its presence across the region, not only with Iran, but with other players, including Iran's rivals. This strategic balance is evident in China's broader Belt and Road Initiative. By presenting itself as a non-interfering power, China has managed to cultivate a positive image among global South countries, which view it as an alternative to the traditional Western powers. However, the volatile nature of Middle Eastern politics means that China's influence in the region is limited, especially as tensions escalate. While China benefits from its economic ties with Iran, its ability to leverage diplomatic influence to manage regional conflicts remains relatively constrained, a limitation that could become more apparent if regional conflicts continue to grow. In the meantime, China has made efforts to assert its influence. In March 2023, it successfully brokered an agreement between Iran and Saudi Arabia to restore diplomatic ties, a move that demonstrates China's ambition to act as a mediator in the region. Later in July, China facilitated discussions between Palestinian factions Fatah and Hamas, resulting in an agreement to work toward a unified government in Gaza. Despite these achievements, however, the region's inherent instability has proven challenging for China's diplomatic strategy. Israel, for instance, rejected any role for Hamas in governance, signaling the limitations of China's influence even as it tries to position itself as a peace broker. Although China's oil trade with Iran gives it leverage, its broader strategy appears to capitalize on the United States' engagement in multiple global conflicts, which can divert attention away from China's activities. If the U.S. remains heavily involved in crises like Ukraine and ongoing tensions in the Middle East, China may face less scrutiny over its own ambitions, such as those related to Taiwan or the South China Sea. Nevertheless, China is cautious not to directly provoke conflict, and its military ties with Iran remain relatively limited. A recent analysis from the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace suggests that China has supplied satellite technology to support Iran's missile program. However, beyond symbolic joint military drills, which many Western observers consider negligible, the military cooperation stemming from the 2021 Strategic Agreement has produced few significant outcomes. While there was discussion of China investing up to $400 billion in Iran over 25 years, Beijing appears reluctant to commit substantial resources as it places higher strategic value on relations with other nations, including Russia and North Korea, both of which serve as buffers against U.S. influence. China's approach with Russia and North Korea reflects similar caution. Although China supports Russia's defense sector, it has refrained from supplying weapons for Russia's war in Ukraine, and it publicly opposes any nuclear threats. With North Korea, China was unable to prevent its acquisition of nuclear weapons, but has nevertheless expressed discontent with North Korea's closer ties to Russia, including a defense agreement signed in June. As violence in the Middle East increases, China is wary of further escalation. In early October, Iran launched missiles at Israel, while Israel has repeatedly targeted Iranian-backed groups in Gaza and Lebanon. These developments have raised concerns in China, which views itself as the most influential power among nations, dubbed the Axis of Upheaval or Quartet of Chaos, a group that includes Iran, North Korea, and Russia. These nations share a distrust of the US-led international order and occasionally collaborate on security matters. Yet despite its alliances, China remains reluctant to take the same risks as its partners, preferring to use these relationships to challenge US influence while avoiding entanglement in conflict. While China has engaged in displays of military strength near Taiwan, it appears to have little appetite for war. In the Middle East, China is keen to avoid being drawn into the complex web of regional conflicts. Should tensions escalate into full-scale confrontation between Iran and Israel, China is likely to adopt a cautious stance, seeking to shield its interests while remaining on the sidelines of active conflict. Russia's role in this geopolitical triangle is complex. Although Russia is unlikely to intervene directly in an Iran-Israel war, it has strengthened its relationship with Iran in recent years, particularly as both nations face Western sanctions. Historically, Iran relied on Russia for military support, but the balance has shifted since Russia's international isolation over its invasion of Ukraine. Today, Iran supplies Russia with essential military equipment, including drones and missiles, reversing the historical dynamic. This partnership now extends to economic and technological collaboration as both countries look to bypass Western sanctions. Although Iran and Russia have aligned interests in countering the West, Russia remains primarily focused on its strategic interests in Ukraine and its broader alliances, including its relationship with Israel. While Russia has equipped Iran with advanced military technology, such as the S-400 missile defense system, it is unlikely to provide direct support in an Iran-Israel conflict. Instead, Russia's assistance will likely be indirect, including arms sales and diplomatic support. This approach allows Russia to maintain its regional influence without being drawn into an active conflict. The partnership between Iran and China has transformed from a trade-based relationship to a strategic alliance grounded in mutual interests. Their cooperation offers critical benefits, particularly in terms of energy security, economic stability, and regional influence. However, the complexities of the Middle East mean that China's engagement with Iran has clear limitations. China's primary goal remains economic stability and the advancement of its Belt and Road Initiative, while Iran values China's support as a counterweight to Western isolation. Together, they navigate a changing global order, with both nations pursuing strategic goals while carefully managing the risks posed by an increasingly volatile world stage. Iran and China's relationship is a unique blend of history, shared interests, and strategic pragmatism that has grown steadily stronger over time. Originally rooted in trade along the Silk Road, this connection has evolved into a vital partnership focused on energy security, economic support, and a shared interest in balancing Western influence. For Iran, dealing with severe sanctions, China provides a crucial economic lifeline by purchasing oil and offering ways to work around US restrictions. In return, Iran is a key partner in China's Belt and Road Initiative, supplying affordable energy and serving as a geographic link to the Middle East and beyond. However, the relationship is not without its challenges. The Middle East is a complex and volatile region, and China has significant investments not only in Iran, but also in Saudi Arabia, Israel, and other states with differing interests. This requires China to carefully balance its ties, reinforcing its commitment to economic cooperation while maintaining a stance of political neutrality in the region's conflicts. China's approach has typically been to strengthen partnerships without stepping into active conflicts, allowing it to expand influence without the risks of direct involvement. With rising tensions between Iran and Israel, questions naturally arise about China's response. Will it deepen support for Iran, or will it maintain its cautious distance? Most signs indicate that China will likely focus on securing its own economic stability, avoiding entanglement in regional conflicts while managing its partnerships carefully. This calculated approach allows both Iran and China to advance their goals in an uncertain world without crossing into outright confrontation. Their partnership stands as a powerful example of strategic cooperation, anchored in history, yet responsive to today's shifting global dynamics, demonstrating how both nations can pursue their ambitions while steering clear of direct conflict. Thank you for watching through to the end. If you enjoyed this content and would like to see more videos like this, we invite you to subscribe and join our community for regular updates. Your support through a like on this video would mean a lot to us and helps us continue bringing you valuable content. Regardless, we hope you have a fantastic day ahead. Thank you again, and goodbye.